Hello students, a very happy and good morning to all of you. I hope you all are doing well and staying at home safely. I am N. Shalini from TTWRJC Kaudipalli. Before going to start my topic, I would like to share a small incident with you all which happened recently at my home. I have a daughter, she is 5 years old, and due to this COVID-19 pandemic situation, I always insist her to wash her hands frequently. In the starting days, she used to ask me, "Mama, why should I wash my hands that much frequently even though my hands are so neat and clean? See my hands, how neat and clean they are. Even though you ask me to wash my hands, why, Mama?" she used to ask. Then I said, "Beta, your hands are so neat and clean to see, but there may be very small, tiny and little organisms that we cannot see." Then immediately she showered a plenty of questions on me, asking, "Mama, how much they will be? Small little organisms means they will be this much or this much or this much. How much they will be and where they will be? They will be only on my hands or everywhere or somewhere else?" Like that many questions she asked. I answered her patiently in the way that she understands. So guys, I know you also had some related questions like this, and here I am to clarify them. And now can you guess my topic? Yes, about small little tiny organisms which we cannot see. What is that? Yes, it is microbiology. Now today we are going to discuss about microbiology. Now by seeing the name itself, you can say what is micro. Micro means small. Bio means, as you all know, bio means life, and logy stands for study. Now say what is the meaning of microbiology? Study of small. Life means organisms. Study of small organisms. This is about microbiology, and this is a Greek word. Microbiology word came from Greek language. Okay, now coming to the definition of microbiology. It is a branch of biology that deals with the study of microorganisms, which we cannot see with our eyes, and they can be seen only under the microscope. It is a branch of biology. It is a branch of biology that deals with the study of microorganisms which we cannot see through our naked eyes, and they can be seen only under the microscope. This is the definition of microbiology. Right, now we shall see some of the history of microbiology. You can see the slide here. For the history of microbiology, you have to know about one great scientist. His name is Anton van Leeuwenhoek. Who is he? He is the father of microbiology. Due to his vigorous work done in the field of microbiology, he is considered as the father of microbiology. He discovered a world of invisible creatures, and he called them as animalcules. He also discovered many microorganisms which he cannot see, which he couldn't see with our naked eyes, and he saw them through the microscope that he created. You can see the picture in his hand. He is holding the microscope that he invented. Okay, that is the microscope Anton van Leeuwenhoek used to study the microorganisms. This is the history of microbiology. Now let's see some of the examples of microorganisms. What all the animals come under microorganisms? Widespread simple life forms like protozoans, microscopic algae and fungi, bacteria and viruses. These all are very small, which we cannot see through our naked eyes. So they are called as microorganisms and they can be seen under the microscope, and the study of these organisms is called as microbiology. Right, understood? So today in our session we are going to study the detailed versions of bacteria and viruses. Right, first let's start with the bacteria. Bacteria are the most widespread organisms, most abundant organisms which are seen on the earth. The study of bacteria is called as bacteriology. And who is the father of bacteriology? Louis Pasteur. Louis Pasteur is considered as the father of bacteriology. Right. So here under the bacteria topic we are going to discuss about the morphology of bacteria. Okay, morphology of bacteria, cell structure of bacteria, reproduction of bacteria, and importance of bacteria to the human beings. These are the topic we are going to discuss under bacteria today. Right. First let's start with the morphology of bacteria. In morphology of bacteria we are going to study about the size and shape of bacteria. Right. As I already said, bacteria are very small in size and they can be seen only under the microscope. They are microscopic organisms. Majority of the bacteria lie under the range of 2.0 micrometers to 5.0 micrometers in length and 0.5 micrometers to 1.0 micrometers in breadth. In this range only the bacteria size will be there. And the smallest bacteria you can see in the slide, the smallest bacteria is Mycoplasma. It is generally seen in the detritus and waste matter, and the largest bacteria is Thiomargarita. It is generally seen in the oceans. So this is the size of bacteria. Now let's see the shape of bacteria. Generally bacteria has 4 shapes. How many shapes? 4 shapes. They are spherical, rod shaped, spiral and comma shaped. These are the 4 general shapes of bacteria. The spherical bacteria are also called as coccus, rod shaped, and these are round shaped. As the name indicates, spherical means round, right? Rod shaped are also called as bacillus. These are rod shaped as the name indicates again. Spiral are also called as spirillum. These are wave shaped like this, and comma shaped are also called as vibrio. These are shaped like a comma, right? These are the 4 general shapes, and there is another form of bacteria. It is called as pleomorphic form. Pleomorphic form of bacteria is the bacteria that keeps on changing its shapes depending on the environment and depending on the available nutrients. The bacteria keep on changing its shape. It is called as pleomorphic form, and example for this is Acetobacter. Acetobacter is the example for pleomorphic form. Now depending on the arrangement of the cells and depending on the number of cells, the coccus and bacillus are again of different forms. Now let's see the different forms of coccus and bacillus in detail. First let's see the different forms of coccus. As we all know, coccus means round shaped cells, right? So different forms are first monococcus, diplococcus, tetracoccus, Streptococcus, Staphylococcus, and the last one is Yersinia. Monococcus, now you have to tell me. Monococcus means coccus is round shaped, mono stands for single cell, so monococcus is single round shaped cell, right? Diplococcus, a pair, that is two round shaped cells which are arranged side by side. Tetra, a group of four cells. Strepto means a chain of cells which are arranged in one single row. Staphylo means a bunch of irregularly shaped, they are called as Staphylococcus. Yersinia is a group of 8 cells that are arranged in the form of a cube. So you can see the slide here. Here you can see the different coccus bacteria, Monococcus, Diplococcus, Strepto and Tetra, Staphylo and Yersinia in a clear manner. In the same way, next we have to see the Bacillus types. Bacillus also, there are 3 forms: Monobacillus, Diplobacillus and Streptobacillus. Monobacillus, as we all know, mono means single, bacillus is rod shaped, so monobacillus is single rod shaped cell, and Diplo 2 cells and Strepto a chain of cells arranged in a single row. This is about the size and shapes of bacteria. Now this is the morphology. Now let's move to the bacterial cell structure, right? Bacterial cell structure, you can see over there, the picture is very clear. The bacteria are unicellular prokaryotes, and these are not having these are not having the membrane bound nucleus. So here the outside, the outer layer, you can see here the capsule is present. It is jelly like layer, and that jelly like layer helps the bacterial cell to attach to the surfaces, and next to the capsule there is cell wall. Inside the capsule, cell wall is present. The cell wall protects the cell from physical damages. Next, plasma membrane is present. The plasma membrane acts as the selective barrier. Inside the plasma membrane, you can see the cytoplasm. In the cytoplasm, cell organelles like ribosome, DNA, that is nucleoid, and plasmid are present. The ribosomes helps bacteria for protein synthesis, and nucleoid is the genetic material of the bacteria, that is DNA, circular DNA. And next, plasmid is present, you can see. So in all the bacteria there is DNA nucleoid, that is genetic material is present, but only in some bacteria there is plasmid. Remember the word plasmid, it is going to play an important role in reproduction process, right? This is about the cell structure, and here you can see the small hair like structures, they are called as pili. This helps for the attachment of the bacteria. And next, here you can see the long hair like structure, that is called as flagellum. So flagellum is the hair like structure, and it helps in the movement of bacteria from one place to another place, wave like movement of the bacterium. So depending on the arrangement and number of flagellum, the bacteria are again classified into different types. So we shall see the classification of bacteria on the basis of flagellum. Flagellum means it is the hair like structure that helps for the wave like movement of the bacterium from one place to another place. And depending on this, Atrichus, Monotrichus, Lophotrichus, Amphitrichus, and last one is Peritrichus. These are the 5 types of bacteria. Atrichus means, again you have to tell with me, Atrichus is the hair like structure, right? Atrichus means, assume this is the bacterial cell. Atrichus means there is no flagella, flagella is absent. Monotrichus means single flagellum. In the slide you can see the single flagellum, that is monotrichous bacteria. Next, Lophotrichus. A tuft of flagella or a bunch of flagella are present only on the one side of the bacterium. Amphitrichus, single or many flagella on two sides of the bacteria. Okay, two sides of the bacteria. Next, Peritrichus. In Peritrichus, the flagella are distributed all over the cell body. Right. These are the 5 types of bacterium depending on the arrangement and number of flagellum. This is the cell structure of bacteria. Now let's move to the reproduction of bacteria. Right. Reproduction of bacteria. Reproduction in bacteria takes place in 2 ways: asexual reproduction and sexual reproduction. Asexual reproduction takes place through binary fission. You can see in the picture, binary fission is very clear here. Here what happens? One single bacterial cell divides and gives rise to 2 genetically identical daughter cells. What happens? Single cell gives rise to 2 daughter cells. That is binary fission. See, in the first step what happens? The nucleotide, that is the DNA, elongates, and in the next step it divides into 2 and the septum is formed in between the cell, and the septum elongates and finally divides the cell into 2 daughter cells, that is 2 genetically identical daughter cells. This is about the binary fission. Next we shall see the sexual reproduction. In bacteria, true sexual reproduction is absent. That is, formation of gametes and the fusion of gametes is absent. But the essence of sexual reproduction, that is transfer of DNA from one bacterial cell to another bacterial cell, takes place. So, we can consider this as sexual reproduction only. So, here in bacterium, sexual reproduction takes place in 3 ways. First one, conjugation. Next, transformation. And last one is transduction. We shall see all the 3 ways in detail now. First one, conjugation. Conjugation is a process in which 2 live bacterium come together and the transfer of DNA from one bacterium to another bacterium takes place directly. Here, to perform this conjugation process, the bacterial cell requires a special apparatus known as pilus or sex pilus, or it is also called as conjugation tube. These are the 3 names given to that special apparatus required to perform conjugation process. Here, this process was first discovered by Lederberg and Totem in the bacterium E. coli. E. coli means Escherichia coli. In this bacterium, first time Lederberg and Totem, they both discovered this conjugation process. Right. In this process, what happens? 2 live bacterium come together. As soon as they come together, one bacterium is named as donor. The second bacterium is known as recipient. The donor is also called as F plus cell. Recipient is also called as F minus cell. F minus cell. Why this is called as F plus and this as F minus? Because in F plus cell there is plasmid. While telling the structure of bacteria, I said you have to remember the plasmid word. What is plasmid? Plasmid is the additional DNA that is present along with the bacterial DNA. All the bacterium contains the genetic material, that is genome, and in addition to that genetic material, only some bacteria contains the plasmid. That is why it is called as F plus cell, and some bacteria they don't have plasmid, so it is called as F minus cell, right. The F plus cell is capable of producing the pilus. This is the pilus. As soon as it produces the pilus, it attaches to the recipient cell. You can see here, yeah, in the first step both bacteria came together, and in the second step what happened, the attachment took place. As soon as the bacterium attaches to the recipient, what happens, it becomes, the pilus becomes shortened in size and it drags the two bacterium together, forming a bridge in between the two bacterium. You can see the third step here. In the third step what happened, two bacterium came together, came close, and the bridge is formed between the two cells. This is the important step. Here what happens, in this step the plasmid replicates. What is replication? Replication is nothing but, in simple words, replication is nothing but forming a Xerox copy, right. For this replication process, two enzymes helps. What are they? Relaxosome and transferosome. These two enzymes help for the replication process. The newly formed plasmid goes into the recipient cell, and now both the cells are having, see in the fourth step, both the cells are having plasmid. One is the bacterial genetic material and another one is the plasmid. Newly formed plasmid moved to the recipient cell, and now both the cells are having plasmid, so they have become new donors, right. This is about the conjugation process. Now let's see the transformation process. Transformation process was first discovered by Frederick Griffith in the bacterium Streptococcus pneumoniae. In this bacteria, the transformation process was first discovered, right. This is the process of uptake of DNA fragments from the environment and expression of that genetic character in the bacterial cell. Okay, uptake of naked DNA fragments from the surrounding environment and expression of that gene or that genetic character in the recipient cell. This process is called as transformation. Now next let's see the transduction process. Transduction process was first discovered by Lederberg and Zinder in the bacterium Salmonella typhimurium. In this bacterium, the first transduction process was discovered by Lederberg and Zinder. These are the two scientists who discovered this process. In this process, what happens? The two bacterium come together and the transfer of DNA from one bacterium to another bacterium takes place through bacteriophages. What are bacteriophages? Bacteriophages are the bacteria which are infected with viruses. Remember this word, we are going to discuss about this again in viruses topic. So, transfer of DNA from one bacterium to another bacterium through bacteriophages. This is the process of transduction, right. This is about the reproduction in bacteria. Now, next let's move to the importance of bacterium to the human beings. Okay, bacteria causes many infections and many diseases in human beings, in plants as well as in animals. Although they cause many diseases, they also have many uses also. They are also beneficial to humankind. So they are considered as friends and foes. Friends and foes of human beings. Why they are considered as friends and foes? Because they are useful bacteria as well as there are harmful bacteria. Right. First, let's see the some bacterial diseases in human beings. Okay, bacterial diseases in human beings. Clostridium tetani is the bacteria that causes tetanus disease. This is a muscle related disease. And Vibrio cholera is the bacterium that causes cholera disease, and Salmonella typhi is the bacteria that causes typhoid disease. This is the high fever. Mycobacterium tuberculosis is the bacteria that causes tuberculosis disease, generally called as TB. This is lung related infection. And Diplococcus pneumoniae is the bacteria that causes pneumonia disease. This is also lung related infection. And Mycobacterium leprae is the bacterium that causes leprosy disease. This is the skin related disease. So these are the some examples of bacterial diseases in humans. Now let's see some examples of bacterial diseases in plants. So Xanthomonas oryzae is a bacteria that causes blight of rice. You can see the leaf there, yellowish color of the leaf. And Xanthomonas actinopodis is the bacterium that causes citrus canker. You can see this in lemon plants or the citrus plants in your gardens if you have citrus plants. And next, Agrobacterium tumefaciens is the bacteria that causes crown gall of apples. This is also seen in the pear plants also. So for example, I have brought the citrus canker example. This is the example for citrus canker caused by Xanthomonas actinopodis. Here you can see the yellowish to brown color lesions are present. You can see here. This is the example for bacterial diseases in plants. So now let's see some of the uses of bacteria. As I already said, there are many uses of bacteria to humankind. They are used in our day-to-day life also, like in food production, like cheese production and production of yogurt, pickles, and in your daily life you are seeing the production of curd from milk. That is the activity of bacteria only. Now, and also bacteria are used in making medicines like antibiotics and insulin. They are also used in industries to digest oil, remove waste and poisons from water, and they are also present in our human intestines, and they produce some vitamins which we cannot see synthesized by ourselves. So these are some of the uses of bacteria, and this is about the bacteria. Here we have seen the morphology of bacteria, cell structure, reproduction, and importance of bacteria to the human beings. These are the topics we have covered under bacteria. Now let's move to our next topic, viruses. Viruses are the unique group of biological entities. They are known to infect each and every type of cell, including protozoans, plant cells, animal cells, and also human beings. By listening the viruses, I know you all remembered about coronavirus. Yes, we are going to discuss about that too, but before going to that, we shall know actually what are viruses, right? They are they infect each and every type of cell, so they are best described as infectious particles, right? They are also called as obligate intracellular parasites, means the viruses can reproduce or they can multiply only if they invade a particular host cell. Otherwise their lives ends there only. If they go into a host cell, they will reproduce and they will multiply. Right. This is about the introduction, and now let's see what are the topics we are going to cover under viruses. First we will see the discovery of viruses. Next, chemical composition, means what are the viruses made up of. Next we will discuss about the structure of viruses along with some examples. Next we will discuss about the reproduction or multiplication of viruses, and at last we will discuss about the viral diseases in humans as well as in plants. These are the topics we are going to discuss now. First, let's see the discovery of viruses. How the viruses are discovered first. Viruses have been victimizing the mankind till ancient times, but at that time the disease causing agent was unknown. They didn't know the disease causing agent. First for the first time, Ivanowski, you can see the picture there, Ivanowski in 1892 he conducted many experiments on tobacco mosaic disease. The disease causing agent was unknown. Tobacco mosaic diseased plants, he collected some leaves from tobacco mosaic diseased plants, and he collected the sap from the leaves and he conducted experiments on that. But he did not know the disease causing agent. Next, what happened? Martinus Beijerinck, he also repeated Ivanowski's experiments, and he concluded that the disease causing agent was contagium leaving fluid. Next, what happened? W.M. Stanley in 1935, he announced that the disease causing agent was a virus, and that virus is named as tobacco mosaic virus, which is commonly called as TMV, tobacco mosaic virus. And at last, Frankel Conrad in 1956, he confirmed that the genetic material of the tobacco mosaic virus is single stranded RNA, that is ssRNA. Right, this is about the discovery of viruses. Now let's see the chemical composition of viruses. From what the viruses are made up of. Right, you can see the slide in the central part, that is nucleic acid core. The viruses are generally made up of nucleic acid and proteins. Viruses are generally made up of nucleic acids and proteins. They have two main components, that is core and capsid. Core and capsid. In the picture, the central part is the nucleic acid, that is DNA, that is called as core, and surrounding the core you can see the many protein particles. It is called as capsid. It is made up of many subunits, protein subunits. It is called as capsomeres. The protein subunits are called as capsomere. Surrounding the core, capsid is present. In the capsid, you can see the capsomeres, and surrounding that, a envelope like structure is also, you can see envelope. On the envelope, there are spikes are present. The spikes are made up of glycoproteins. This is the structure of viruses, chemical composition of viruses. Now let's see some of the examples of viruses along with their structures. Structure of viruses may be polyhedral. Polyhedral means having many sides. See, you can see in the picture they are having many sides. Examples are herpes virus and poliovirus. Next, helical viruses. Helical viruses means they are having rod shaped structure, elongated or rod shaped structure. Example for this type are rabies virus and tobacco mosaic virus. We shall see the structure of tobacco mosaic virus in detail. Here in tobacco mosaic virus, you can see the central part like this. It is called as core. This is the core of the virus. This is made up of a single stranded RNA. This is made up of single stranded RNA and 2130 nucleotides, right. This is the central part. It is the DNA, RNA, that is genetic material, called as core. Surrounding that you are having protein subunits, that is called as capsid. These are made up of 6500 protein subunits called as capsomeres. So, this is the structure of tobacco mosaic virus. You can see once again in the picture, that is the tobacco mosaic virus structure. You can see the central part, it is core, and surrounding that many capsomeres are arranged in helical manner. This is the structure of tobacco mosaic virus. Next, measles virus. These are having envelope and there are glycoprotein projections which are called as spikes. These spikes helps the virus to attach to the surfaces or to attach to the host cell. Next, coronavirus is also same. It is also having the glycoprotein projections which helps the virus to attach to the host cell. Next, the structure of bacteriophage. This the bacteriophage structure is having complex complicated structure, so these are called as complex viruses. Complicated structure means it is having two parts, head part and tail part. In the head you can see the polyhedral symmetry and in the tail part you can see the helical symmetry, that is rod shaped. In the head part there is core, that is DNA is present, and along with that capsomeres are also present. And in the tail part you can see the head and tail are attached with the neck or collar, and in the tail part you can see the sheath. At the corner of the sheath and at the end of the sheath you can see the basal plate, plate like structure which is called as basal plate, and at the corner of the basal plate the long tail like fibers arise, 6 in number, and they are called as tail fibers. With the help of the tail fibers the virus attaches to the host cell, a particular host cell it is going to attach, right. This is the structure of bacteriophage. Now this is about the structure and some examples. Now let us see the reproduction of viruses, reproduction or multiplication of viruses. As I already said, the viruses reproduce or multiply only if they invade a particular host cell. So, they are called as obligate intracellular parasites. If they go into a host cell only, they are going to multiply or reproduce. So, here we shall take the example of bacteriophage reproduction. Bacteriophage multiplication. The bacteriophage multiplication takes place in two ways. First one is lytic cycle, next lysogenic cycle. We shall see the two types of multiplications in detail. First, let us see the lytic cycle. Here we are taking the example of virus as bacteriophage and the host cell as bacterial cell. So, here it is a 5-step process. In the first step what happens? Attachment takes place. The bacteriophage attaches to the bacterial cell. The bacteriophage comes near the bacterial cell and attaches to the bacterial cell. This is the attachment phase. In this the bacteriophage is having tail fibers. With the help of the tail fibers attachment takes place. Next step is penetration. In penetration what happens? The bacteriophage DNA penetrates into the host cell, that is bacterial cell. Phage DNA penetrates into the bacterial cell, right. For this the tail sheath is there, no, that helps for penetration process, right. It helps, it acts like a syringe and it helps in piercing the cell wall and entering the DNA into the host cell. This is penetration. Now next we shall see the biosynthesis. Next step is third step, biosynthesis. The phage DNA replicates and phage proteins are made. Here what happens? The phage DNA that will replicates, means replication takes place, and the phage are produced, the parts of the phage are produced separately. Next step, maturation. In maturation what happens? The new phage particles which are formed in the previous step, they are assembled here, means they get assembled to form a new bacteriophage, that is called as virions. The newly formed bacteriophages are called as virions. Here the time period between the attachment, means the first step, and maturation means the fourth step, the time period between the attachment and maturation is called as eclipse period. Eclipse period, right. Next, last step is lysis. Lysis means dissolving of the cell wall of the bacteria. The cell lysis takes place, releasing the newly formed virions or newly formed bacteriophages. Here the number of bacteriophages released from one bacteria is called as burst size. What is burst size? The number of bacteriophages released from one bacterial cell is called as burst size. At last what happens? The lysis of the cell takes place, causing infections or diseases to the host cell. This is the lytic cycle. Now let us see the lysogenic cycle. Here also in lysogenic cycle we are taking the example of a virus as bacteriophage and host cell as bacterial cell. Same in the case of lytic cycle also we have taken the same examples. So in lysogenic cycle also, here we are you can see the picture there. First step is attachment, second step is penetration. The both phases are same in the lytic cycle and lysogenic cycle. Attachment and penetration is same. And next what happens here in lytic cycle, what happened in the third step and fourth, fifth step, what happened? The newly formed bacteriophages are formed and they are released. But here in lysogenic cycle, what happens in the third step? You can see there. You can see in the third step, incorporation of genetic material takes place. In second step, penetration, the DNA penetrated into the bacterial cell. Next what happened? The penetrated DNA, it gets integrated with the genetic material of the bacterial cell. So understood, the penetrated DNA, it gets incorporated with the genetic material of the bacterial cell. Next what happens? Whenever the bacterial cell undergoes replication, the phage DNA also undergoes replication. Here replication of genetic material. Afterwards in the last step, the cell division takes place, and in the last step cell division takes place. Here the destroying of the bacterial cell doesn't takes place. Here the cell division only takes place. But whenever at this stage, whenever the bacterial cell is exposed to the light, ultraviolet rays, or they are exposed to the chemicals, again the cell enters into the lytic cycle. Then consequently the cell is destroyed. So here in lysogenic cycle, destruction of the cell doesn't takes place. This is about the reproduction or multiplication of viruses, right. Now let's move to the viral diseases in plants as well as animals. viruses cause many diseases in plants as well as animals. As you all know, they cause many infections in human beings also. So let's see some of the viral diseases in plants. Viral diseases in plants, generally the symptoms are seen in the leaves. In viral diseases, the symptoms is seen in the leaves part. So first one is mosaic. You can see this in tobacco mosaic disease. It is caused by tobacco mosaic virus. You can see the leaves over there. It has become curl like structure. And next, chlorosis. Chlorosis is also seen in banana leaf, that is yellowish or brown coloring of leaf, and it lacks the chlorophyll. Next, vein clearing, example bendy vein clearing, that is seen in okra or lady's finger. And here another example is papaya leaf for vein clearing. This is also examples for viral diseases in plants. Here the yellowish of the leaf you can see very clearly, and this is the fresh leaf. This is not the this is the fresh leaf. So you can see the yellowing of the leaf, which is caused by disease, viral disease. And here you can also see the mango leaves, black color spots on the mango leaves. This is also example for viral diseases in plants. Can you see it? Black color spots on the mango leaf is also example for viral diseases. And next one, swollen shoot of cocoa. Here the shoot becomes swollen. This is about the viral diseases in plants. Now let's see some of the viral diseases in animals or human beings. Now let's see the viral diseases in human beings. Viruses causes many infections and many diseases in human beings. For example, they cause common cold, smallpox, chicken pox, flus, etc. Although many diseases like this, they are not they do not lead to death, but there are some diseases like rabies, Ebola and AIDS. This in these diseases the mortality rate is very high. So now let's see the another disease which is shaking the whole world today, which is caused by coronavirus, and the disease is COVID-19. So here CO stands for corona, VI stands for virus, and D stands for disease, and 19 is the year in which it is found first. So the symptoms of this disease starts with cold, common cold, and throat pain, high fever and high headache, and there are many asymptomatic cases are also reported today until now. So guys, please be careful, don't go outside unnecessarily. If you have to go, also use sanitizer and wear mask and use sanitizer, and maintain physical distance between each other. Okay, and prevent yourself, because as our elders say, prevention is better than cure, right? This is about the viral diseases. Now let's see the project work. Collect the information about some bacterial and some viral diseases and write about the preventive measures. Next, collect the information about some uses of bacteria in our day-to-day life. So this is the project work, and this is all for today. Have a nice day. Thank you.